Good evening, everyone. I want to call to order the October 7 regular meeting of the Lenore County Public Schools Board. First item on the agenda is the invocation, and we'll call on Ms. Lynch for the invocation.
Let us pray. May the words spoken in this room tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff, and administrators in our school system. And may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions on the best interest of our young people. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the approval of tonight's agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda as proposed? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stroud. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nobles. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, the agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes from September 3, 2013. Or is there a motion to approve the minutes as drafted?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sargent. Any other questions or comments? Not. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, minutes are approved. Next item is the board chair's comments. I want to welcome everybody tonight to our board meeting. It's big, quite a large turnout. I suspect a lot of people are here because of the K-8 issue. I do want to point out before we start, and I know there are a lot of people who have signed up to speak, and we certainly welcome all your comments. Whether K-8 gets done or does not get done is not for this board to decide tonight. What's on the agenda tonight is an information item for the full board to hear recommendations of the School System Improvement Task Force. My understanding, and I'm not on that committee, so I, like the majority of this board, will be hearing this information for the first time tonight. But should the board decide to explore it further, I can assure everyone here there will be ample opportunity in the way of parent forums for everyone to have an opportunity to hear and to voice their concerns, support, against, whatever. But again, I do want to point out that that is not an item that's going to get decided one way or the other this evening. With that, I will move to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Contiguous Savannah K School was one of only 13 schools in the state of North Carolina last year who were asked to participate in the design, development, and piloting of the North Carolina STEM recognition process. The school organized the STEM committee made up of kindergarten through 8th grade teachers who provided feedback, input, and suggestions to refine the process for the state of North Carolina. Contiguous Savannah K School will submit a North Carolina STEM recognition application for the 2013-14 school year. America's Farmers Grow Rural Education is sponsored by the Monsanto Fund to help farmers positively impact their communities by supporting local school districts. The program gives farmers the opportunity to nominate a rural public school district in their community to compete for merit-based grants of $10,000 to enhance education in the areas of math and/or science. Lenore County became eligible for this grant through the nominations of farmers in our county. North Carolina agriculture teacher Michelle Spence and North Lenore agriculture teacher Michelle Spence and South Lenore agriculture teacher Gene Smith worked together on a grant that would benefit both schools. Their grant, titled Creative Metal, is the first grant to be awarded in Lenore County by Monsanto. Their grant proposal is to purchase a robotic plasma can that will be shared by both agriculture departments and utilized primarily in the agriculture mechanics courses, and will provide our students with the opportunity to use real-world technologies on the cutting edge of metal fabrication. While the primary purpose of the equipment is for precision metal cutting, other discipline areas will be incorporated into the learning opportunities for our students. The addition of this piece of equipment will raise the county's agricultural programs to an even higher level in respect to current trends in industry while preparing students for careers in metal fabrication. The Plasma Cam's professional results will also afford fundraising opportunities for our FFA chapters, as well as services we could provide within our schools and communities. Without the grant, working with equipment of this caliber would not be possible for our students. The Monsanto grant presentation will be at South Lenore High School tomorrow night, Tuesday, October 8th, at approximately 5:30 p.m. between JV and varsity volleyball games. Tommy Benton will be the Monsanto representative who will be making the presentation. I will be there. Certainly encourage anyone else who wanted to be there and see this awarded to our schools district. Leanne Hall, a 5th grade teacher at Pink Hill Elementary, has been selected as the North Carolina Council of Mathematics Outstanding Elementary School Mathematics Teacher for Lenore County. Ms. Hall will be recognized at the NCCTM award ceremony during the State Math Conference on November 1st, and she will also receive a membership in NCCTM. Ms. Hall could not be here with us tonight, but certainly our congratulations go out to her. She was selected for various methods which engages her students, including using iPads for that purpose. North Carolina School Boards Association recognizes members for whole board and individual training accomplishments. To earn the Special Achievement for Boardsmanship Award, every board member must have earned 12 or more hours of training during 2012-13 school year. This award was presented during the September district meeting to the Lenore County Public Schools School Board. In addition to that, we have 4 members that will receive individual recognition for having earned 30 hours or more of training during the 2012-13 year. Those members are Mr. John Sargent, Mr. Merwin Smith, Mr. Giles Stroud, and Mr. Bruce Hill. Congratulations to all of our board members, and thank you for attending training sessions and keeping up with boardmanship. After hearing from all board members about rescheduling the April board meeting because of the conflict with the national conference, the meeting has been rescheduled for Tuesday, April 1st, 2014. We will certainly send you reminders to that effect for your calendars. Between September 9th, after Kinston Charter School closed, and October 14th, Lenore County Public Schools enrolled 165 students in the grades of K-8, primarily from that school. Student records from the closed Kinston School Charter have been given to us for storage. The Office of Charter Schools in Raleigh asked us to retain the rest of the records in the event a search is made for a student who previously resided in Lenore County but went to school at Kinston Charter. Our 20-day enrollment figures, 2012-13 were 9,086. 2013-14, our 20-day enrollment was 9,229. So we are experiencing growth, some of those obviously coming from the charter school. We will take another count at 40 for the state's purposes, and they will then look at the 20-day count and the 40-day count and use the highest of those 2 counts to actually fund us for the additional students that we have. So the good news is our additional students came early enough in the year to actually receive more state funding. Would like to say I've been working with Kinston Free Press this week, certainly. Thank you for the articles that you have done to inform the public. Also did the podcast on the K-8 issue. It was online at www.kinston.com on Friday, October 8th. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next item would be public comment. Okay, the first person signed up to speak is Kim Wade, and I would remind each of you have 3 minutes, okay? Have a seat right there, Ms. Wade.
Mr. Chair, if I also, I get the unpopular role of actually timing everybody who speaks. So at the 2-minute mark, I'll just go ahead and say 1 minute, so you get 1 minute left. The other point under the policy, I believe there's 8 people signed up. There's 12 minutes per topic in the policy, which would mean that's 4 individuals. If the board would like to entertain comments from more than 4 individuals on the same topic, I think you can do so by a motion and majority of the board.
Okay. Is there a motion we do that?
So moved.
All right. Second. All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. Go ahead, Ms. Wade.
Good evening, board members. My name is Kim Wade, and I have 2 children who are currently attending Banks Elementary School. I'm speaking tonight as a concerned parent on the proposed K-8 themed schools. I understand that the curriculum will be the same throughout all schools, with reinforcements in the areas that the school decides upon as their theme. I have a problem with choosing a theme for my child at such a young age. Who am I to choose what my kindergartner or third grader will excel in at this young age that could potentially negatively affect them in the future? If you want to do themed schools, why not look at the high schools and implement change at this level where these children are older, have a foundation of knowledge, and along with their parents can make a decision that is appropriate for them. There are still a lot of high school and even college students that are unsure of what they want to do beyond high school, and I can't imagine making this decision for my elementary school age child. There is also concern for the fact of where my children will attend school. When my husband and I decided to purchase our home, as well as many other parents, we chose our home in the school district in which we wanted our children to attend. Uprooting my children along with others for them to be moved clear across the county for the sake of a themed school is very concerning. There will be the potential for them not to be in the same school as their friends, neighbors, and teachers that they know not only in school, but as well as outside of the school. This is very comforting to these little ones to have familiar faces from teachers and friends. Besides all of this emotional concern, there is the logistics to implementing this idea in schools that are not designed to house K-8 students and figuring out how my kindergartner will not interact with an 8th grader. I have had the opportunity to tour several schools over the last several days, and while it sounds good on paper, implementing this plan of action is a different story. I think a lot more research needs to be completed on the pros and cons of K-8 schools before I'm convinced that this is the best decision for my children. I know that there's a lot of people who support K-8 Contentia Savannah. However, I ask them to take a step back and look at it from our point of view. We don't have a new school that was built to accommodate a K-8 student population, and our children are very likely not to be in school with their friends that they have gone to school from the beginning, and they will potentially attend a school outside of their neighborhood. I ask the board to take into consideration that I, as a parent, advocate for change within our schools in order to make our children globally competitive. However, I do not feel that K-8 themed schools is the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wade. Chrissy Rouse.
I'd like to note that I agree with everything that she said. I'm going to speak on a different topic. My name is Chrissy Rouse, and I have 2 children currently in the public school system. One is a freshman at North Lenore, and the second is at Banks Elementary. I thank you for the opportunity to hear me speak tonight. I would like to say that I'm not completely opposed to the K-8 schools, nor do I oppose theme schools. I do, however, oppose the current idea of the K-8 theme schools. I feel it is crazy to turn our current school system upside down and blindly place them in one of the 4 serving in a pod. After taking our time to tour Frank Middle School, Woodington Middle School, CSS, Banks, and Rochelle, I more than ever believe that the proposal needs to be better thought out. Some of our current schools will need major overhauls. Some of them are already now at capacity with no room to expand if needed. Classrooms that were built for K-5 students will be too small for middle school students. Our middle school sports program is up in the air at the moment with no clear vision of what the future holds. One idea is having current rec department come in and help with which would be devastating to anyone who truly understands how our local rec department runs. The other is busing all students to the current middle school of their pod because this location currently has the facilities needed. This means you will have to run at least 3 buses per day, every day of the school year, to the middle school and back per pod. Do we really have the funds for fuel to make this happen? What will the team be called? Because you no longer can name them Frank Cavs, Woodington Raiders, Rochelle Vikings, due to other schools being bussed over. You will lose your school pride because the students will no longer be playing for their school. Exactly who would you be playing for? Are the funds for new equipment, new uniforms, bus drivers? All these questions we do not have the answers to. I implore you to send them back to the drawing board to answer these questions that they do not have answers for. I do not feel at this time that they are ready for parent or public forums. I say they have to go back and pick new members who will be closely affected by this change. This would include current principals, teachers, and parents, those who truly care about our children, not just those trying to complete an agenda, because our future of our children is at stake.
Thank you, Ms. Rouse. Stacy Heath.
Thank you, Lord, for allowing me to speak. I'm not as prepared as these moms are, but Yeah, I've got a couple of concerns about K-8. You know, is our infrastructure ready for it? I don't know. I would like to understand how it will be implemented and where our children might be going to school. I mean, everybody wants to have an idea. This all really started from a Facebook post about football in the area. And somehow it grew into how the schools were going to be kind of, you know, split up, and our kids weren't going to be able to, you know, be at the same school with some of the people they played with and everything else. What kind of grew, and it kind of grabbed my interest a little bit. And I talked to a few task force members, a few board members, a few commissioners, and so on, and people around, and started getting, you know, I know this is an idea, is what I've heard, Mr. Mazingo, and it's probably not a bad idea. I just want to make sure we're going down the correct path, that we don't come up and down the road. You know, we're 5 years into a bond referendum that my kids will probably end up paying for, but who knows. I don't want to get into another thing like that. I want to make sure that my kids are not upset. I've got 2 kids in the school system. I've got one at Frank and one at North Lenore. And, you know, just looking at it from a standpoint, just standing out of the box, I look at it, you know, I see my kids going into the job market, and the job market is not there. You know, I want to make sure that the K-8 is not something just to be pushed to get a grant. I want to make sure we didn't put the money before the kids. And because technology is a double-edged sword, whether you know it or not. The more technology we push out there, corporations are automating every day to kill jobs. So, you know, just teach them the basics and give them a good foundation. You know, reading, writing, arithmetic, and definitely some technology, but by the time they're 6 years old, they already know more than their parents and the teachers anyway. So what we need to do is really put a focus back on teaching the kids. We need to make sure that they understand, you know, that when they get in the real world, it's the real world. By 18, they should know how to manage their credit and everything else, because that's where it happens. You know, teach them K through 12, teach them how to manage a checkbook, you know, giving them an account. I wouldn't mind contributing money to an account for a kid and let him learn how to use it through high school. And by the time he gets out, they'll know what to do with that money. They'll know what to do with their earnings. They'll know what to do with life, because that's what it's all about. You know, I want to know if there's an overwhelming, you know, asking of the public, you know, do y'all have a lot of people asking, you know, can my kid go to Savannah? Are they at capacity? What brought this about? Was it the grant that brought it about, or what was it? It worries me, because, you know, we're all on the road to 2 employees of the future, a man and a dog, and the man's there to feed the dog's there to keep the man from touching the machine. So we all need to understand that, and we need to have our kids to understand that too, that it's a competitive world. We're not supposed to be competitive with each other. We're supposed to be preparing for a competitive. That's your time. That's it? That's it. All right, well, sorry for all the rhetoric, but I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. E. Christy Cahoon.
I'm good with it. I'm good. Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, oh yes. This one said enough all for me.
Okay. Scott Wiggins.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not all that prepared either, but, you know, I'm a Lenore County farmer, and, you know, I was brought up where you went to the school that was in your neighborhood, and that's what I want to see with my youngins. You know, I got one in 3rd grade at LaGrange, another one in kindergarten at LaGrange, and I got a little girl coming up, my only little girl. Do I want her going to school with a facility that's not ready for that, and she's bypassing in the lunch line or whatever, being intimidated by 8th graders? I don't want that for my little girl. My son, the one that's in kindergarten, he's already gotten bullied this year a little bit by a 3rd or 4th grader. I do not want that for him with somebody that's 8 years old, or in 8th grade. You know, it's like, where do you draw the line? Me, I'd rather see it more where it's more schools with less children in them all the way, and more facilities with grades closer together. And whenever you're talking about, you know, funding, getting grants, in the 2012-2013 school year, I don't even think there was an art program at LaGrange Elementary. My 3rd grader, he loves doodling, he loves drawing. Why come he didn't have nobody teaching him that blue and yellow makes green? You know, where do you draw the line? If you want to fund something, fund what we have right now to make it better and give them everything they want. And don't push nothing down somebody's throat like the federal government is. Thank you.
Nikki, is it Hayes?
That would be me, and Kim Wade spoke up for me. She said everything
Okay.
that I have concerns about.
All right, Donna Vincent.
Good evening. I'm Donna Vincent, and I have children in first grade at Banks Elementary, a son in sixth grade at Frank Middle School, and a daughter that's 14 that just started North Lenore this year. I speak as a special needs parent. I'm going to speak out for all the children who don't have a voice, and even this year at the great school of Frank that has seen a tremendous revamping of their administration lead, they didn't have a sixth grade EC teacher. That is concerning for me. As Mr. Wiggins talked about, there are schools right now that we've visited over the last few days that are without an arts teacher. We're concerned, since the sports aspect has kind of been brought up, how do we get what we need now that's currently missing? The EC teachers. North Lenore was missing one as well. I'm only speaking of the schools that I'm familiar with, but I'm sure this is a county-wide problem where we're missing people that are vital positions that our children need. My son has been a victim of bullying severely, to the point that I had to take a serious stand. I am worried about what will happen to my first grade daughter should they have to intermingle, because we're not looking at the same modifications that Contentnia Savannah got. I had a wonderful opportunity to tour that school today, and I see why they love it. I see the community that they have, which is exactly what we're speaking of tonight for our schools. The schools that our children are at, because we hand-selected those schools for our children to attend. We want that community. We want to stay where we are, and we want to make sure that we have what we're missing now before we make leaps and bounds into something that there are more unanswered questions as to how this would work than there are answered questions on how it would succeed. I am also in agreement that the forums be put off. I do not think we're in a position to have parents ask one-on-one questions with Dr. Mazingo, even though he has given his time to do so with a number of parents over the last few weeks, for which we are appreciative. But there are too many unanswered questions. If we're going to have this kind of turnout just for a board meeting when we know our questions will not be answered tonight, imagine what it will be like at a forum for schools. I implore you, again, that word has been used, but I implore you to decide tonight to not move forward until more questions are answered so we can be comfortable, and to decide to add all principals, more teachers, and parents to this task force that represent a diversity of what we're exactly facing with our children. Thank you.
Jessica Powell.
I'm totally unscripted, so that might be dangerous. I am probably the one that's going to get run out of here. I'm a parent of a CSS child. My son is a 7th grader there. And this morning I attended the same meeting that Miss Vincent and Christy and Miss Beverly and that Jamie came to, and I got a little education of where they were coming from. Because personally I felt like my little school was being attacked by the no K-8 people. I want to address everybody and say that when we got K-8, it was forced on us. It was not something that we wanted. We liked going to Contentnia, then transferring to Savannah. That's what I did. That's what my dad did, so on and so on. But it works. My child there's a lot of programs out there that he didn't have when he was at Contentnia, and that I didn't have when I was at Contentnia or Savannah. I don't want all the fear that's going around. I don't know everything that's in the proposal. As my understanding, it's just in an idea. I don't know how far into planning that it is. I think that it could work if all of us get together, communicate like we're supposed to, and not, I think these parents feel like that something is being forced down their throat. And I just want, to ask y'all if it's possible to let the parents, an equal, amount of parents from each district, including Contentnia Savannah, to be able to have our own task force to intermingle with your task force to try to come up with a solution that would work best for everyone, not just a one-size-fits-all, but one-size-fits-all that's more tailored to the children's education. I'm not for shutting this idea down. Anything that will improve our children's education, I'm all for it. Especially, I have 4 children that are all going through the school system. I want every one of my children to go to college. And I know that everyone in this room wants the best for their child. I think that when we walked out of the school today, we all agreed that it doesn't matter which side of the fence we're on, we do want what's best. So I'm asking y'all to please not close the lines of communication now. Let's try to keep all of this open and not offend each other, and let's try to get the facts out when this does come out, when it is proposed to us. Make sure all of us are informed, because right now we're hearing that this is a done deal. We don't have a choice, that my child from Kentucky, and I'm telling you, I don't really want my child to leave Kentucky, but I'm hearing that there's going to be districts. I'm also hearing that my child will be bused from one end of the county to the other, and there's a lot of unfriendly things being thrown around about this proposition. So that is all I wanted to ask, that y'all please keep that communication open with all of these parents so that we can hopefully make this work or come to an idea that will work. Thank you. Just a little.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. That is the final name we have signed up to speak for the night. I want to thank everybody for their comments. There were many very valid points, very valid questions raised, and the first item on our information agenda is the recommendation of the School Improvement Task Force. So I hope everybody will remain here, and perhaps some of these questions can get addressed. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Mazzini.
All right, thank you. Work. It's always good to see that come up. I would also like to say I appreciate the parents coming out tonight and speaking. This is really where I hope to get to with some of these ideas, to get a lot of parent feedback. So I'm not bringing plans tonight because I really wanted to give people a chance to react to some of the ideas that have been created from this task force, because even inviting 58 people, you certainly can't get to everyone that you need to. But that was never really what we were trying to do with the task force. It really was a group of people who sit down and have a conversation about some ideas that might both be attractive to parents and also might help improve the district. We did center our thoughts around the ideas you see up there tonight, connecting your child to a prosperous future. Certainly that is what we would like to do. The world is changing very quickly. We do need to be globally competitive. We have lots of other choices that parents can take in terms of education. We'd like to be the ones that can help assure that your child does have that future that we all want for our children. I have 4 children also. Okay, let's talk about the School System Improvement Task Force for just a minute. I think a lot of this has already been published, and so you may know this already. But we did invite 58. We had 42 that actually ended up serving. And the purpose was to discuss ways to improve the school district. Very simple task set forth. We did start out by agreeing on some beliefs, which we ended up calling guiding statements, which I'm going to put up on the next slide. We had a total of 4 meetings, and we did divide up into 5 subcommittees, having additional meetings within those subcommittees. I'll also outline the subcommittees that worked on different topics. The guiding statements that we kind of agreed on at the very beginning of our work here was, first, that public schools no longer have a monopoly. In other words, this kind of was driving us to try to work harder to serve the public that we serve better, because there are going to be increasing choices as we go in the future. We want to act like the school district that is really trying to get your business. We want to be the school district that you would choose your child to be in. So we want some of the very comments that you told us tonight, and we want reaction to any ideas certainly we have for improvement. I assure you, never the idea to cram anything down anybody's throat, but to try to improve the school district to be more the place where you want your child to be. The second one is, parents should not feel that they have to leave public schools to find what they need for their child. We'd like to be the place where you can get what it is that you need and what your child needs to connect them to that prosperous future. The third point, schools should be relevant to the real world. We've talked a lot about this in education for now almost 100 years. The fact that what a child does in their real world outside of school should be applicable to the school itself, and what they learn inside the school certainly should be relevant to the real world outside the schools. And the fourth idea is we would like schools to try to connect students to a career in such a way that they can have that prosperous future, to the point where we offer more opportunities like you heard about tonight with the Monsanto grant, to have an equipment that children can actually work on and actually be moving toward a career as they're certainly in high school. And the last one is kind of an interesting one. It must be cool to be smart in school. We've had a lot of concerns in recent years about the fact that children sometimes don't always want to do their best in school because they don't feel that they can be a cool kid and also be smart. And we'd like to put together a school where the cool thing to do is to be as good as you can possibly be in your school and to be looked at as smart as you could possibly be in your school. The subcommittees out of the School System Improvement Task Force that worked on the ideas that we're going to present tonight, and some of them have already been discussed, was mission, vision, and goals. And the idea was we haven't looked at our mission and vision and goals for many years. How do we update those so that we have those more pointed towards connecting a child to a prosperous future? We have a draft for mission and vision, have not worked on goals. Certainly there is more input from the board and from others before we're ready to move forward and change that, but we did have a subcommittee really headed up by a community college person that's very knowledgeable about writing mission and vision statements to give us some ideas on what we could look at. The second subcommittee was looking at the whole idea of magnet schools and theme schools, which is kind of a value-added type of format. Magnet schools are used in districts to kind of draw students to a school where the population is decreased. Theme schools is an idea of having something a little extra in a school, whether that be second language, foreign language, STEM education, more arts, as we have with the A+ school at Rochelle, it's not to replace the curriculum or to have a school that's different or to try to pigeonhole kids into careers. It is simply to try to put something a little more exciting at the school that helps with school engagement and also helps students be more successful. The more engaged, the more successful they are, and the more fun they have and the more engaged they are. The third idea is one that you hear a lot about in the news, and certainly I hear a lot about from politicians because a lot of our state legislatures were elected around the idea of providing more school choice. For us, that means, is there a way we can provide some school choice within the district so that parents can find what it is they want here rather than moving to choices outside the district like charter schools and home schools and public school vouchers are going to come online next fall, and some of the things that there may be an online K-12 school soon that you could choose and actually use those vouchers for that. So we would like to be the place that can provide parents with the choice they want so that they really do not have to look outside the district for that. Logistics of high school academies. We already have a couple of special opportunities for high school students. One of those would be the early college high school, which is very different, very successful. The second one was the IB school that's housed at Kinston High School. Kicked around a lot of ideas. Are there other things that we need to be looking at in terms of small kind of schools within a school concept or small schools that would allow high school students to explore something they really wanted to explore and lead them possibly toward a career? And of course the whole idea of technology and using technology with our kids and making schools more the place that they're accustomed to in terms of how they use and work with technology to learn and communicate as well. And what that would look like if we could have what we thought we needed to really teach our kids. Okay, we spent a lot of time talking about what we thought parents wanted and also looking at what they were choosing when they chose to go outside of public schools to other places. And came up with some, I guess, some realizations that parents really do want school choice. They'd like to choose the school their child attends based on what is best for the child. You heard some of that tonight. That you had arranged your lives so that your child was going to the school that you wanted them to go to. Parents are choosing schools that are K-8 or K-12. Most of the alternatives are in that range. Private schools, charter schools seem to be very popular with parents, and most of them have this particular configuration. And parents want something more than traditional education. I looked across the nation. We looked at successful schools in other places and what was drawing parents in. And those did seem to have a lot of those value-added ideas that we have, for lack of a better term, called theme schools, where there is something a little more going on than the regular curriculum, although certainly every student will get a good, solid curriculum that is, at this point, state mandated for us. The ideas that were discussed by the School System Improvement Task Force, some of those up there you already recognize, some have been talked about. First idea was, is there a way we could provide some school choice for parents? That's a little scary for public school people. We've never tried to do that. We do have a transfer policy. There is some wiggle room, but never really tried to give parents an opportunity to actually choose the experience they want for their parents. So we kick that around a lot. Is that possible? Is it something we should look at? The second idea was themes for schools in the K-8 grade span, which is not K-8 schools, by the way. That would be the schools we have, the 1 K-8, the K-5s, the 6-8. Is there something we can do out there in terms of value-added ideas? And I'll list the ones that we discussed in terms of possibilities for students and schools to use. In terms of adding something extra, like I say, we're already doing an A+ at Rochelle in terms of adding more arts. Continuous Savannah is doing some stuff with STEM, and we would like to do more with STEM across the district. And we've spent a lot of years on North County talking about STEM and the need for that, and that's where a lot of the jobs are, of course. So that was certainly one of the strong ideas. K-8 schools was based on it came out of one of the subcommittees in the task force. It was not one of the original topics. It did come out, and the more we looked into it, the more we realized it's fairly well documented in terms of success. I do have some points I'll share with you that have come from some research that I've had Dr. John Paul Blackett with Community College looking at, and also some research I did at. And certainly we need to do more research because we haven't exhausted what is out there, but there are a lot of questions to answer before we move forward. Some of the concerns raised tonight certainly need exploring. But we have found some things that are pretty interesting about just the grade configuration K-8. High school academies, that's back to the idea of having more special opportunities like early college and IB program. And what would they be, and what would hopefully lead our high school students to a career after their experience with us. And then the whole idea of one-to-one technology, which is now the term used for that is digital conversion, which means that every student would have some type of device to work with during the day. Possibly their textbooks would be on that. A lot of the work they do would be on that. A lot of how they prepare what they do would be on that, which is a fairly real-world experience for students now in terms of how they will live their life, certainly. We're going to have more technology in the future, not less. We can wish that was not true. It's not going to go away. Our kids are going to be dealing with technology their entire lives. And the idea was, how do we use it in school to teach them in such a way that they're ready for that experience once they get out into the real world. Okay, the themes that we discussed in terms of ideas that would possibly enhance the school was STEM. The whole idea of accelerate academic studies like an IB program. An IB, we have IB in high school. You can also have a K-8 IB school, a K-5 IB school. You can have IB applied to schools other than high school if you decide to do that. Then the idea of worldview and dual language. And dual language is more than just having foreign language in high school. The idea of dual language is so that the student actually learns to read, write, and speak in a second language. And there are viable programs. I had one in a neighboring school district where I was superintendent, very successful. Parents loved it. But I will tell you this, if you have a applicant that sits down and they are perfectly fluent in another language and read, write, and speak that language, they're going to come out on top of an equal applicant sitting beside them. This is a skill certainly that would serve a lot of students, I think, very well, and an idea that is possible for us to explore if that's something that we would decide we want to do. I know it works. I've seen it work. Health and wellness, certainly there is a lot of interest in both our own personal health and our personal wellness, and also the industry that serves us in terms of health and wellness. And a lot of ideas can be used in school to enhance the curriculum and kind of teach through the lens of possible health careers or what you need to do to be healthy or wellness, and the whole idea of exploring it that way. And of course, School of the Arts is one that you see in a lot of places, offering students the chance to go somewhere where that's a lot of what they do is explore the arts in addition to having a full academic curriculum, certainly. There's some very successful schools around the nation, even in the state, that allow students to do a little more with the arts. We really ended up, when we talked about the arts, of the idea of trying to expand the arts for all of our kids. And some ideas around that, and you'll see at least one of those when we get to that point. Some key points from K-8 research that we looked at, and these came from Dr. John Paul Black, and I have attached for the board to look at a 10-page summary of kind of where he is with that research right now. I will make it available to parents also to look at. And there's more research to be done, and that's kind of the last statement in his summary. But the foundation of middle schools serves social and organizational needs of the times, but this model does not serve the academic and developmental needs of students, coming from the research out there available. And over the past 25 years, there has been no documented benefit for students who attend middle school versus students who attend K-8. In other words, there's not any evidence that we could find out there that middle schools actually enhanced the academic education of students over those that attend K-8. If you look at K-8 models, some of the recent ones, some of the recent studies have been in Pennsylvania, Illinois, California, and North Carolina. They all reveal in the K-8 models out there in these major studies that they have fewer discipline, fewer behavior incidents, greater academic persistence and promotion over middle school models, even when the researchers control for some of the factors that could be said are the reasons why these schools are more successful. Even when they control the other things, it seems that the K-8 configuration itself actually does have some positive impact for our students. One of the last things we talked about was the idea of combining possibly 3 of these ideas, and that being the idea of K-8, the idea of having themes in the K-8 grade span, and the idea is providing first choice. And this really kind of relates more to the school choice idea, because themes does kind of make the choice make a little more sense. And the idea is that all schools could convert to K-8 grade configurations. Themes could be chosen for each of the K-8 schools. The themes could be repeated across the attendance zones so that all students would have access to the same theme schools. And then parents could choose the theme K-8 they feel is right for their child. Are there 1,000 questions that go with this? Oh yeah, because this is still in the idea stage. And it is, but it does put together some of the ideas we looked at we think would be beneficial for children. And I think this is where the idea got out that this was all a done deal, and it was all done, and we had a plan, and we knew what we were going to do, and it's going to be crammed down everybody's throat. None of that is true, none at all. It's absolutely still in the idea stage. All we did was flesh it out a little bit and say how these things look if we combine them together. What could K-8 theme schools do for our students? We looked at what a positive impact that would be, combining some of the research from K-8, some of the success stories from theme schools in terms of how it can enhance students' learning. Children will be more engaged and more successful with fewer discipline problems according to what we see in the research. Parents will be able to choose the school experience for a child, have more choice, not less. A child's transition from 5th grade to 6th grade will be much less traumatic. That's pretty well documented and something we would certainly like to fix because our students lose a lot of ground academically between 5th and 6th grade. And that does seem to be due primarily to the transition. We don't see that same impact in a K-8 school. A child will be in the same school for 9 years, giving parents a greater opportunity to become involved with that school, kind of develop that sense of community over a longer period of time. And we believe that a child will enter 9th grade better prepared and with fewer prior discipline problems due to some of the impact that we've seen. Okay. We did talk about sports and arts because we knew we couldn't do anything where we could not support a full sports program at the middle school level. And so whatever we do, we will support a full school sports program. We couldn't do anything unless we were able to do that. And that we want to expand opportunities in arts, and that needs to be part of any plan that we ultimately pursue. Certainly, at least what we have and more in both of those categories is some of the ideas we talked about. So if we provided choice, we did look at what was possible in terms of transportation, because there is a cost to transportation, of course. We did believe, at least initially looking, and we really haven't done an exhaustive study of this, that transportation could be provided free throughout an attendance zone. And for us, that would be 3. And we're talking about high school attendance zones, so there would be a Kinston High School attendance zone, a North Lenore attendance zone, and a South Lenore attendance zone. And we could allow for transfers to other schools outside the attendance zones based on space available. Not moving anybody outside the attendance zone, we could allow that. We do that now. That's basically our transfer policy we have now. If, based on space available, parents who really have a need to move their child to another district can, or another attendance zone can do that. And the transportation across attendance zones would be at the expense of the parents. We could not afford to transport students all the way across the county. Okay. Here are the kind of the career and college ready academies that we looked at, and this goes back to the high school career academies ideas. And here is again, this is a list of ideas. Certainly before we move forward with anything, we'd have to decide it was viable and that students could use it, and it would be something that students would benefit from, and again would try to connect them to that prosperous future and career. The first one we already have. We have academic prep, IB already. School of the Arts is an idea for high schools. Do we need an opportunity for students to become more engaged in the arts, and could we provide that in a smaller setting, in a kind of a school within a school? We already have an early college, very successful program. Do we need to repeat that? Do we need more of that? Do we have students who would like more opportunity for early college? We've been talking about STEM for years, but we really don't have, I think, everything we need in terms of opportunities for students in high school. Can we set up those opportunities for students to explore science and technology and engineering and mathematics? We've done a good job with Project Lead the Way and some other things we're doing. But there are a lot more ideas, a lot more opportunities out there. College Tech Prep Academy, where students could actually learn how to be machinists, could learn how to fix an automobile. We have some of that. We think that can be enhanced. We think we can provide additional opportunities. Talked about things like PLC programming, where you program those robots. The jobs out there are becoming more highly skilled, so that you need to know how to operate the machinery rather than actually do the work. There are good jobs here in Lenore County that require a 2-year degree in PLC programming. I'd like to see if we could start a kid on the way to that, if that's something they wanted to do after high school, and get some of those jobs that start like $24 to $32 an hour right here in Lenore County. Criminal justice and fire, we have a lot of interest from a lot of our students in that. I talked to the police chief in particular about needing officers. We certainly need to have our students have the opportunity to explore that if that is something they would like to do. Health sciences, big opportunities and careers right here in the county as well as all around, not just doctors and nurses, but certainly radiologists and tech people in health sciences, taking things like polysomnography, some of the other opportunities out there for sleep studies, and expanding what we offer in terms of a chance to get started on that path while you're in high school. Agriculture technology is big for us. Certainly want to embrace that, do more with that. And then the whole idea of aeronautics. We have Spirit Air Systems right up here on top of us. I read things about needing X number of pilots in the next few years. Connecting students to an opportunity to explore aeronautics if they have that interest might be a good thing and something we want to pursue. All of these would come with a good standard college opportunity curriculum. We're not shorting anybody anything on any of these opportunities. Simply, like we do with early college students, giving them a chance to do high school and at the same time work toward a two-year college degree. We think we can do that with more of our students, kind of give them a leg up in terms of what they're going to do the rest of their life. The digital conversion, the one-to-one idea I talked about, if you look at the benefits of that and some of what other districts are getting from that, it does allow for more personalized learning, especially in terms of some of the data we have and how we can best serve individual students. That's one of the ideas that's actually in the grant of how we can use that for helping our students learn and help teachers manage the data that they do have to look at it with a child. Make school more relevant. Certainly, most of our students have cell phones. They have iPads at home. They have computers. Most of our students live in an electronic world already. School would look more like what they're accustomed to seeing outside and more accustomed to how they're learning things outside of school. Increased student engagement and success. We know that students like to work with technology, and we know they like to learn with technology. We think that it would really help our students concentrate more, work harder on what they need to learn, and ultimately be more successful. And it would allow students to learn using the tools they use in the real world, like I just talked about in terms of making school relevant. All of these, I think, are fairly compelling reasons to try to increase our technology. And we're going to have to do that with some money from outside. It's very difficult to get this going and get it started. Easier to sustain once you get it going, but very difficult to begin. Okay, I've heard a lot of concerns. Some of them I mentioned already. We're moving too fast. I'm probably guilty of that. I'm kind of a do-it person. I'm always willing to step back and take more time and give more chance for people to react. We're doing away with the sports program. That's absolutely not true. We certainly will guarantee whatever we do that students have the opportunity to play sports is an extremely important part of what we do for children. And certainly is a motivator for students to do well in school. Students we transport across the county have already pretty much explained that we can't afford that, and that was never really anything we envisioned doing. It may work with inside attendance zones. Certainly wouldn't work if we started transporting a lot of students across the county. We just don't have the funds and couldn't possibly get that system worked out to do it. Parents and teachers will not have a voice. I absolutely want everyone to have a voice, which is why I have kind of described the next steps I'd like to take as going out and having parent forums to listen to parents. Also providing online surveys. I'd like to have, we have 9,229 students currently. I'd like to have 9,229 surveys back on some of the ideas that you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see, get more input from a wider arena than what we've already explored. The next one is interesting. This is all about the superintendent. None of this is about me. It's not a plan I have that I really feel passionate about implementing to the point where I would do it against public will. The only thing that your superintendent wants to do is try to serve you better, and that's what this effort has been about from the very beginning. And students will be forced to change schools. What we would like to accomplish is for parents to have more choice, not less. So we certainly don't want to be in the business of forcing anybody to change the school that you're currently happy with. Okay. The next steps, and of course, this is kind of what I wanted the board to weigh in on tonight, is I'd like to do some parent forums in October and November to discuss some of the ideas you heard tonight, to try to get some other ideas that may be out there that we want to look at. Would like to do some research on the K-8 theme school interest and other ideas that we have in here to parents and teachers following the parents' forums. Really try to get a good broad base of input from all the parents. I appreciate those that showed up here tonight. But again, I have 9,229 students. I'd like to get a whole lot more input before we move forward with anything, certainly any ideas. Decide how to move forward based on the input we get from parents and teachers. Decide what ideas are those that people would like to see and those that aren't something that you want. And we'd like to explore then, we did, as a task force, kind of decide we had to start somewhere. So we did choose to maybe take this year to look at some ideas for K-8, K-8 grade span, not just K-8 schools. And that next year we would get a lot deeper into exploring other high school opportunities. You can argue whether that's backwards or the right way to go, but obviously it's kind of like an elephant. You can't do it all at one time. You have to do it a bite at a time. So we kind of had to decide where it is we would start in terms of investigating ideas that may improve the school district. So at this point, certainly like to entertain any questions from the board and get feedback on how it is you would like us to move forward, if you want us to move forward.
I gotta say I got a lot of questions, and and I listened to a lot of the people that came forward, and I had some of the same questions they had. So, but when we got down to the very last thing, I came up with some questions about, you know, why not the high school first, you know, versus doing anything with the middle schools, the other schools first, you know, was that looked at, or?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed it a lot, and I'm fine going in that direction. I think it came down to the task force recommending which way we go. We spent a lot of our initial time talking about high schools, as a matter of fact, especially the idea of high school academies and offering more opportunities in that way. I'd be perfectly happy to explore high schools first.
Yeah, I just got I know how I was when I had kids in these small grades, and I made a lot of decisions based on where I lived at and what I did, based on where they're going to school at. And I know sounds like a lot of these people did too. So, you know, when we start moving young kids around, you know, I knew we were going to have a large crowd here. So, you know, that's why I'm even throwing in the idea of why not look at the high school first. If we, you know, I think some of the ideas about the themes are great, and I think, you know, I think trying to find jobs and all that, you know, like people said, we're not trying to decide what our babies are going to do when they grow up, when they start in kindergarten, you know, especially for the theme. You know, but I'm just giving my opinion, and so, you know, I just go from there. I wasn't on the committee, so.
Well, I'll speak up. I usually do. I was on the committee, and it would have been nice if every one of you in the room could have been on the committee. But obviously, you can't have this many people on one committee to try to decide one thing. I have put a lot of time and effort in trying to be a good board member and trying to learn as much as I can. And one of the things that they teach you in school board training is you want to use data, make data-driven decisions. And since I've been on the board, I've been on 2 terms now, and I have seen a lot of this transition, not in North Carolina and across the country. People going back to K-8 because they just said the middle school concept simply did not accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. So more people are going back. I had some of the same questions that you had. And believe it or not, just about every question that, and I wrote down a lot of these tonight, every question that someone had was discussed in this committee. Now, I am a believer in committees and having people that, you know, have representation from different groups in the county, whether it's a teacher or principal or a parent or business community leader. I do believe in doing that, and we've had 2 other committees where we try to make some changes in this county, and the people that probably were for or positive in those other 2 concepts never showed up. Just the people that had the negative aspects showed up. So I did have some of the very same questions that you had, and it would have been nice for if everyone could have been there. But I would feel comfortable with at least going through and getting some more information from parents about this.
But you only asked 2 parents to be on the task force, and one was already living in Lenore County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. People in this county, we've got to do something to our education system, though this county is going to die. Now, y'all may think that we're living in a perfect world here, we've got everything, but if we don't make some changes in our education process, this county is going to die. And also the education process, as you know it, North Carolina will die, because there will be so many changes made to it that you won't have a public education anymore. So we need, the reason I was interested in serving, I was asked a certain reason I was interested, because I'd like to see this county move forward. I'd like to see some things done in this county to make this progressive. I have 4 kids. All 4 of my kids went to the public schools. When my kids got to college, they didn't have a clue what they wanted to do. If they had had some opportunity, whether it be K through 8 or K, whatever, to have some exposure to some things when they got to college, it may have helped them some to figure out what they wanted to do. All 4 of my kids changed their major at least one time in college because they had no exposure to anything in high school. Well, unless you've been there, you really can't say one way or the other. But
I've been there. I've made mistakes already with my 14-year-old.
But having those kids have some exposure to anything more than what we're doing now would be beneficial to the kids. Now, you may not think so as a parent, just like you're talking about technology.
Do you have kids in the school system now?
Let me stop. Again, ladies and gentlemen, that's why this needs to be done at a public forum that's designed for the purpose of back and forth between the administration and the board and the public. That is not the purpose of tonight's meeting. So, again, we allowed everybody to speak, and I certainly appreciate everyone's comments, but we can't have interruptions from the audience. So I'm going to have to ask everybody just
and I'm a parent that's on your side. If we have a public forum, can we ensure that us K-8 pro parents and the non-K-8 pro parents are equally represented in, I can't help it, I'm the only one that showed up, that spoke, I'm sorry.
Well, and I don't know the answer to that. That depends on who comes. Who cares enough to come?
I want he said about the negative people showing up all the time. I want to see some people, I want to hear both sides of this. That's why I came tonight.
Well, my point now is tonight isn't the time for a debate between the board and the audience about the pros and cons of it. Again, that's not the purpose of tonight's board meeting. It is an information item for tonight's board meeting, so I'm going to have to request, please, that everybody let the board members speak, and then you can contact your individual board member. If we go to parent forum, certainly you can speak and be heard at that time, and ask anybody you'd like to attend. Again, that would be the whole purpose of the forum. But, we can't we just can't have the audience interrupting every time a board member, pro or con, says something against this. And I've got several questions too. But I'm just asking the audience to please let the board state its position. Again, feel free to contact your board member, let them know how you feel, and if this thing goes to public forums, please come and share with us what your views are at that point. Were you finished?
Yeah, I think so.
My question, I have a question, around moving too fast. It does, of course, I think I got wind of it about a week before it hit the paper the first time, just in general conversation with the superintendent. But, and since then I've heard that we're talking about next year. I don't know that we need to move that fast. I don't know if plans are to move that fast, but to continue to study, I do like having parents involved and having the parent forums and look into it further, because I really believe K-8 is a good structure. I mean, every charter school that's been developed is K-8 or K-12, I went to a K-8 school in Lenore County years ago, and a long time ago. I never had a bad experience, but I would like to see it continue to study, maybe not to the point of moving next year, but, continue to look at it, maybe look at a school instead of district-wide.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
let me also add something to that. I agree with Mr. Braxton's comment. I think it's something we can at least, I'm not going to be closed-minded. I want to hear what you got to say and what is there and what we might be able to do. But I'd like to also request that any more that representatives from every district is involved and that they be from Lenore County.
I would also like to, at the next, when we get ready to move forward, I would also like to see the dollar amounts at what this would cost us to implement fully. If we're talking about going K-8, and just give me some round figures, dollar amounts this will probably cost us to do, because money being short this year, I just want to know what it's going to cost us.
And what you'd have to have is go from ideas to more of a plan, so you'd have some idea of what it's going to cost. So we're not even at the point where we have enough specifics that you can cost it out, honestly.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so it's really too early to put a cost on it. We did try to consider cost as we were looking at some of the ideas to see what might be trade-offs and what could be possible. Really got to the point of thinking it might be possible to offer some choice in transportation within attendance zone, based on the fact that running K-8 buses saves you a little money over running K-5 and 6A. So while you wouldn't do that just to save money, it does come with some efficiency and may give you some additional cost of transportation. We have not studied that to see if that's the case, and haven't done any studies on what the cost would be. We're really just at the stage of trying to figure out, are some ideas out there we need to seriously consider to see if we possibly can make them happen. And money would come in the stage when we got there.
We talk about transportation, but wouldn't we have to do something to the schools to drive them to the K-8 eligibility, or whatever we might want to call it?
Well, we talked a lot about that, and there would be some need for changes, but it's really not as great as you would think. It seems to be feasible, but we haven't done a study on it. I mean, I can't tell you exactly what it would cost or what would be involved, but what you see when you go to Content in Savannah is not necessarily all that different than what you see when you go to a regular school. Okay. I have some disagreement, but honestly, it's true. And when you go in, like when you go inside of a bathroom, for example, the toilets are the same height that you have in your house. So we don't put smaller toilets in for students. We do have to consider some sink heights, and there There are some needs for extremely young children, like kindergarten children primarily, that we would have to look at. So there are some changes, but it's not rebuilding a school. It's more adjustments than it is anything else. So.
Most of our old schools were K-12 at one time, I believe.
That's
years
correct.
ago.
The older schools have had younger children in them at one point in time.
Well, let me ask this, because I've got the same question, Mr. Nova. I don't know what's involved,
Yeah.
in if anything, in transforming an elementary school into a KA. And obviously, if I don't know what's involved, I have no idea about what the cost is. And as much as, we have been cut in the past several years, are we not putting the cart before the horse, trying to make a decision on this or investigate it further before we know whether or not we can even afford to do it?
That can be the next step we take, if that's what the board would like to see. And that's the discussion I wanted tonight. What do you need in terms of?
That's what I'd really like to see, is some practicality about what's involved in turning an elementary school, because I've heard 1,000 and I have no clue. I will tell you, I don't. That's why I'm relying upon people to inform me.
Right.
What's involved in transforming an elementary school to a K-8, and what's that going to cost? And if we're going to have some savings, you mentioned some savings running buses for K-8. I'd kind of like to see how that works. I mean, that would be a pro. That'd be something to consider as well. But to me, given the hostility that some people seem to have against the idea, even before they've heard all the particulars, before we go about fighting that battle, I don't want to do it if it's a moot point and we can't afford it.
Another,
I'd be happy to give that to you. If that's the next step you would like me to take.
I guess another thing to consider would be which schools would you convert? Which ones would we move if that was an idea that was going forward? Would you move it, change the elementary school, or would you move it to a middle school? Which actual schools? I've had a lot of course, emails, and I'm sure you have, about the new schools, the additions to Southeast, some additions to some of the other schools. And what would it be? Do we need to move to the elementary school? Do we need to move it to the middle school? If that was a thing that we explored, what would be the most feasible? That's what I would like to know as well. Another concern that I've heard is the smaller children and the larger children maybe intermingling on the bus or at the school. I have two small children in school, 3rd grade. Of course, as a parent, that would be one of my concerns. But having seen this and kind of know how it works, and I've heard the bullying thing, and that happens whether they're with their peers or with the older kids sometimes. But I would like to see how would it work as far as separating them on the bus. I think at Consenia Savannah, do the larger kids sit up front, the smaller kids up front, and the larger kids in the rear?
Yeah, that is the way we do it.
And at the schools, let's just say, I'm just going to throw a school out. If we took one of the schools and changed it over, we would just say it's a 2-floor school, say Rochelle, for example. Would you have the elementary on the lower level and middle school on the upper level, or how would that, those are just some of the logistics that I have questions about that some of the parents have had concerns with me about as well.
Okay.
The only other thing that I have a question about too is, well, it's a concern. We just spent a lot of money for the rebuilding of a lot of schools, and if we're talking about making changes to those schools, I'm not sure that's the best way to use our money, because of the fact that, we just built 3 new elementary schools, and they were built for K through 4 or 5 or whatever. And, and so that's just a concern I have, in trying to put something like this together now that we've just finished building, and we haven't even finished paying for the schools that we have there.
I wanted to address a few issues about the task force, the school improvement task force, because it seems, and this is for my board member, I served on the task force. And for some reason, I don't get listed as a parent, even though I have 2 children in our school system. But when the press reports it, they don't report me as a parent, even though I'm a board member. But if you know that, parenting comes first for our kids. The whole thing was put together, at least from my perspective, with the intent to try to brainstorm some ideas to improve our school system. That's really all it was. It was a group of people who came together to try to come up with some concepts or ideas to try to improve our school system, which is why I wanted to be involved, because I believe we can do better than we're doing. I'm a new board member. I've only been here a year, but part of the reason I got up here is because I believe we can do better. Now, in this task force, we're brainstorming ideas. I just want everybody to realize there was no real specifics discussed in the task force. We talked about some of the potential problems with different concepts, but to my knowledge, I mean, we never sat down and talked about cost, and that's important. We never sat down and talked about a lot of the specifics on how to accomplish these things. What we talked about was educational concepts and whether this was a good concept, would improve our school system, or whether it would be something we weren't interested in. And I think we did identify the K-8 configuration as a good concept. And I believe it's a good concept. If I was building a school today, I'd probably want to put a K-8 school. Now, I'll also tell you at the same time, building a K-8 school and converting existing schools to K-8 is a very different thing. So I think a lot of the concerns that I've heard tonight, I think are legitimate. As a parent of a child in middle school, I'm concerned about it too. So I'm really, I know that K-8 is a good concept because that's what the charter schools are going to. That's what private schools go to. I think that's a good concept. Whether we can do it here, I have no idea. But before I would really want to decide that, I would want to see the specifics of how it would work. I'd like to see more information. And if we could see that, then I think we could make an informed decision about whether this is a good thing or not. But now, at this point, don't have a problem with trying to develop some specifics so we actually have something to decide. Because today, I don't feel like I have anything to decide right now. I've got a concept that I feel like is good. Will it work here? I have no idea. I also want to address one other thing, I think, for the parents while I'm going. I'm a new board member, and I don't mean to demean any other board member up here. But I've sat out here at board meetings, and I've come here before and sat at board meetings because I was afraid the board was going to do something without telling us about it. And I understand how these people feel about that. And I've sat at board meetings where I've seen decisions made and there wasn't any discussion at the meeting. It just didn't say, it's just a vote and here's what we did. And I thought that was wrong. If we're going to make a major decision about the schools, we need the parents' input, and we need to have an open and legitimate discussion at these meetings about, is this a good thing or not? I think people deciding these things at other times and places was wrong in the past, and I really think that the parents need to know that's not how we're going to do business here today. We're not going to do that.
All right, thank you, and that's not the way I ever intended to do business either. That's why the ideas were brought before they were fleshed out, to get some reaction. I do appreciate parents coming tonight. I also thought you had some great questions. Certainly the board has great questions. And now it's kind of my job to go back and see if I can give the board the information they've been asking me for. And so, Mr. Chairman, I would propose at this point, based on what I've heard, that we put off getting more information from parents until I can get the board more of the information you've asked for tonight. And we'll start to work on that. And we'll go from that point, see where we want to go. Is that?
I mean, that's good with me. What's the pleasure of the other board members?
Yeah, you're saying get us more information before you even hold the forums?
I'll go either way. You know,
Yeah,
I just want to go.
I'm in agreement
more
with
the way you want me to. That's why
what I
we're
heard some
having
of the
this
parents say
special
that I don't think we were ready to have a forum in October.
Okay.
I think as other board members say, we do need more information.
I'd like to be able to give the parents some more specifics about how this would work before we have the parent forums.
I'm certainly more than fine with that.
Can we put this presentation on the web so they can look
Yes,
at
in
it?
fact, I
And also
intend to.
the supplemental information?
Yeah.
And I think they ought to make the research public to them as well, which you said you were going to do.
Right. We're going to post both of these things on the website, as a matter of fact. So, in fact, this presentation is in PDF form on the agenda. And by the way, we're using an electronic agenda now, and you can go out to Board Docs, I believe it is. You can actually pull up our agenda, and it's usually ready on Saturday now for you to see. So, and there's the PDF of this will be moved to the public portion of the agenda and also be on the website. I'm really all about giving the information and getting input, and so I've learned a lot tonight about what your questions are, what the board's questions are, and ready to go do my job.
Any other questions, comments, Dr. Mazingo? If not, we'll move to the next item, financial report.
At least it must be real boring.
Yeah, this is the boring part.
Sorry.
This is the answer.
I don't think you're bored, Lisa. Okay? I don't think you're bored.
All of you. Appreciate you coming out.
Appreciate you coming. Yes, sir.
How you doing, sir? Thanks, sir.
The board and the rest of the board stuff.
I'm still trying to figure out. I'll say something. All right.
Can I ask a quick question? Do you propose having the further research and stuff by your next board meeting, or?
It's going to take some time to put it together, so I don't know
Could
yet.
that be
But
a public knowledge? Could that
Oh, yeah.
be made
The
public?
agenda is always public.
the agenda is always public. It's always there on Saturday. You know, I just didn't want to commit to that, so I'm not sure how long it takes to put the information together.
Concerning the task force, and when I was reading the names on the task force, I didn't notice a lot of retired or African-American teachers or former educators with at least 20, 25 years of experience. Like, I didn't notice a fluctuation of them on the actual list of the people that were chosen for the task force. Not a lot of PhD, doctorate African-Americans on that actual list. So I was concerned with, I would like to know what that process was of who chose this task force and what the process was on that.
Well, let me suggest again, this is not a question and answer period about that with the board and the superintendent. This is a board meeting. If you have that question, feel free to email it to Dr. Mazingo, and I'm sure he'll be more than glad to respond to it.
Absolutely.
And with that, again, we need to continue on with this board meeting. Thank you, sir.
All right. Good evening. You received a copy of the financial report for the month of September. It reflects year-to-date activity by providing revenue and expenditure information as to all the sources of funds received and expended by fund and purpose as of September 30th, 2013. May I answer any questions?
Yeah, one about the reserve. It looks like it's grown a little bit. Is it just because you haven't made payouts this month, or?
in November, we'll have supplements coming out.
Okay,
So
so that's
that-
going to
that
pull out of
will-
that.
Yes, that will decrease it, yes.
Large expenditure coming with those local supplements.
How much to date have we received from the lottery funds?
I'm gonna be honest, I have not checked it lately.
Because I was in a conversation, I think, with the superintendent that doesn't look like we're receiving the funds that they promised us.
Not originally.
We have not since they implemented things.
Yeah.
In place.
And, and as I did in one meeting before, I want to clarify this for the people that are watching and listening. There's still a lot of misconception about how those lottery funds are used. And we just need to make it clear that I believe ours goes to the bond, which
All of our lottery funds that we received that directly come to us goes to pay the bond debt.
on the new school.
Yes. Any other questions?
I will go to the next item on the agenda if I can find my agenda here.
I think it's me, healthcare reform.
It's healthcare reform.
Healthcare reform is
At the North Carolina Association of School Business Officials Conference that was held this past July, a workshop was presented by Gallagher Benefit Services concerning the new healthcare reform. With the new healthcare reform, employers will be required to offer health coverage to all full-time employees and their dependents beginning January 1st, 2015, or pay a penalty. Full-time is equivalent to working at least 30 hours a week, even if the employee is considered part-time, a substitute, bus driver, tutor, etc. There will be a measurement period to determine which employees work 30-plus hours a week. The measurement period could be a 3 to 12-month period prior to January 1st, 2015. At most, this means there could be a possible measurement period from November 1st, 2013 to October 31st, 2014, with a 2-month administrative period to evaluate the measurement results and conduct enrollment. Therefore, instead of waiting until mid-year school year to limit the number of hours to 29 for our non-full-time employees, it was decided to be proactive and start the 29-hour mandate at the beginning of the school year. This would give us time to make sure all non-full-time employees are at or below the 29-hour limit. During the measurement period, if it is determined a non-full-time employee is working over 30 hours a week, we would be liable to cover at least 6 months' health care coverage for that employee. For example, if it is determined that 50 different substitutes worked over 30 hours a week during the measurement period, it would cost us approximately $132,125 to cover the required 6 months health care coverage. If other LEAs are not limiting the number of hours for non-full-time employees, I feel certain they will be implementing this in the very near future. Gallagher Benefit Services Incorporated presented at our regional finance meeting also, which was held in Dupont County last month. They are scheduled to give presentations all over the state in other LEAs. May I answer any questions?
On that point, I can reiterate that with other boards that we're working with, this is a pretty common discussion about limiting the amount of hours because of its impact on the expenses.
I'm glad you clarified some of this because I've been getting a lot of
I'm sure.
calls, a lot of
Sure.
stopping me different places, want to know why the subs are cut to 29 hours, and like I've said, and I want to reiterate this as well. I've been told the other counties, the surrounding counties haven't done it, that potentially they will have to and go back and pick it up. But I also want to realize that what we've done in Lenore County, what we try to do is to keep the employees that we had, basically talking about our TAs, that we kept our TAs, we didn't send any home. And we took, I believe it was $300,000 out of our local funds, so we wouldn't have to send them home. So taking that $29 and 29 hours being proactive is really,
I think, a good choice, because what's going to happen if we didn't, we have to come back and pay this money.
That's correct.
There's a lot of part-time people. That will cost us quite a bit of money. It would probably deteriorate our balance.
None of us like this, you know, and it's certainly not the way we could best serve our children. But financially, we really don't have much choice in terms of limiting this. The cost of paying somebody's health insurance for 6 months can get out of hand very, very quickly. So we're doing what we think we have to do in the fiscal interest for the district.
Dr. Mazingo, who did this affect the most in our work group?
Substitutes.
The
Substitute
subs.
teachers.
So instead of being like a regular sub, you have to.
Well, they were basically being limited to about 3.5 days a week.
Okay.
Where in the past, they could have worked 5 days a week.
Which is problematic if you got a teacher
It
out
is.
long-term.
That's where our
keep rolling
issue,
different subs
yes.
through there to keep.
That's
keep
where
them
we're
under.
having a lot of our issues, is with the teachers that are on maternity leave and.
One of the things we are exploring is where do we need to make exceptions to that? What is working, what's not workable, and how much could we afford in terms of exceptions without kind of breaking the bank. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head with it. That's exactly where it kind of is not a good plan for kids. And that's kind of why we went ahead and implemented this, so we'd have a chance to look at how it works. Does it work? Do we need to make adjustments? What do we need to try to prepare for in terms of paying the cost of some of these subs, if not all? And had it kind of worked out before the measurement really started.
And does this apply to everyone, regardless of age or?
Yeah.
Right.
We've had
no one's exempted from this.
We've had a lot of questions about retirees. Why would it affect retirees? Because they're already covered under the retirement insurance. And from what they were telling us is even though they're covered under retirement insurance, the retirement system can come back on us and say, well, they were your full-time employee, so you pay their insurance, not us.
So if they just do this for 1 month, we would.
There's going to be there's a measurement period, and they suggested to us a 12-month measurement period. And if any employee goes over those 30 hours a week, or I think it was 130 hours a month, during that measurement period, then we would be required to pay that insurance for 6 months.
So what's your question, if they work over 29 hours for just 1 month, will we have to pay the insurance? Was that the question I was trying to?
Once we're into the measurement period, yeah.
Once we're in the measurement period.
Now, is this going to be weekly or monthly, the measurement period?
It would be over that, say if we do the 12-month, they would look at it, they would say 12 months at
Take an average.
An average, over that.
So if we had substitutes, we could actually work them a little more as long as they didn't run into weeks or whole months.
Yeah, and one of the things we're not sure on exactly how this is going to be implemented and what the rules are going to come out in the end. So I think right now we're being maybe more cautious. Hopefully, this is one of the areas that we keep hearing is going to be clarified. But without the clarification, you kind of have to look at that worst case scenario and figure out what you can live with.
And our office is quickly becoming as experts as we can on the Affordable Care Act. So any guidance that you all may need, we've got a few folks who really have this wrapped around pretty well and are giving districts as much advice as they can about what they're offering.
It is certainly not easy to understand, so we're going to need some help as we go down the road.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you. Next item is, we'll move to the action agenda, Pierce Group Benefit Services Agreement.
Yes. Pierce Group Benefits provides services for our flexible, dependent care, vision, dental, accidental, cancer, life insurance, and other employee benefits. This agreement is to renew the benefit services for the 2014 plan year. And we've been using them for several years now. And we haven't had any problems with them, and we would prefer to keep them if we can.
I certainly would recommend that we do. It serves our employees very, very well.
All right, is there a motion that we approve the Pierce Group Benefit Service Agreement?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Strauss. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Service agreement is approved.
Thank you.
Representative for Parks and Recreation Commission.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Garland Nobles, who has served for many years on the Parks and Recreation Board, and who has indicated that he would like to retire from that. I think his words were, I'd like to give that to maybe someone younger. That eliminates at least me around this table. Did do a little bit of research in terms of who might be willing to serve in this capacity, someone who had the interest. We do have 2 of our board members who currently have children of the age to use the services of Parks and Rec. Mr. Sargent has indicated he would be happy to serve in this capacity, and certainly would ask you to consider him as your new ex officio representative to the Parks and Rec Board.
Move to accept to appoint Mr. John Sargent as ex officio of Parks and Rec.
Okay.
I second.
Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Miller. Are there any other nominations?
Make a motion that nominations come to a close.
Nominations are closed. All in favor of approving Mr. Sargent, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Congratulations.
Thank you. I hope.
North Carolina School Board's Action Center.
The North Carolina School Boards Association approached all of you earlier about a new action center that they are in the process actually of putting in place. It's a new 501c4. It is designed to strengthen local school board advocacy efforts, including in the legislature. They have told us a little bit about what they're planning to do and what they're not planning to do. This really is about lobbying on behalf of public schools and school boards in particular. They have assured us they will not endorse any political candidates. Some of us have been to meetings where this was discussed more at length. We've tried to pass on that information to all of you. Mr. Smith, I really appreciate you sharing your experience with this with other board members, and certainly we have passed on everything that we have received in terms of information. This does come at a request for a $4,000 fee for this organization. The purpose of this primarily is to raise money to do a few more things than the School Board Association currently do in their current structure. If you would decide to do this, I think our attorney has some advice on the motion that we need to go along with this to make sure that we're wording completely within the law and that you do understand what your money would be put toward in terms of trying to improve things with the legislature for public schools. Okay. Questions, discussions, and certainly your attorney's ready with some advice on the motion if you'd like to move in that direction.
I want to hear your advice.
Well, I don't have advice on whether you want to allocate this money or not. But if you're inclined to do that, there are a couple of restrictions that we want to put in place for the motion. So first of all, we've gotten questions from a lot of our board members as to whether this is something that a local board can do, because it's an allocation of money to a private entity. And there's a constitutional requirement that public funds be used for public school purposes. So we would need to make sure that that's in there. It also is, there's two things. So that you have Article 9 of the state constitution, which says the county school funds must be used exclusively for maintaining free public schools. So that's one thing that we keep in consideration. Another portion of the Constitution says that public funds to endorse or oppose a referendum, election, or a particular candidate for elective office is expressly prohibited. So we've been, in the interest of full disclosure, our firm does work with the North Carolina School Boards Association very closely, and we've talked to them about their bylaws, and they're in the process of changing their bylaws to restrict the use of these funds for those purposes. But if you're inclined to consider this tonight, what you can do is you could make a motion to approve the payment of $4,000 to the Action Center, and subject to The funds being limited to the following: lobbying legislatures in support of legislation beneficial to school boards and their interests, they also would be, it would be for the purpose of advertising of issues of importance to school districts, but shall not be used to endorse or oppose any referendum or candidate for office. The other thing that you would want to arrange with them, this doesn't have to be part of the motion, but you would want an annual accounting specifically to let you know how your funds were used, to make sure that it's in compliance with those provisions. So.
Are there any other school systems that y'all are working with that are using this?
Well, this is brand new. In fact, I think you might be the first board that has considered it because they've just got it up and running. I know that there's a lot of conversation with other boards, and over the next month or two, it's going to be an agenda item for most of the boards that we work with.
I think at the school board meeting, they indicated about 21 districts had already signed on. And
20 plus that had already.
Yeah, a lot of others are considering it. So everybody's kind of where you guys are in terms of talking about this, whether it's a good idea or not.
So, Ms. Wall, my question is, would it be a good idea at this point, before those things that you mentioned, that we go into this, or should we wait? I understand what your motion was to do it based on if they do that, but should we even do this now, or should we wait?
I think if you were to pass the motion with those limitations so that you put in the provisions by which you want your money spent, you're absolutely fine. And so I don't really have a position one way or the other. What they're going to be doing, and I think they'll probably have in place by next week, is bylaws that will already restrict the use of any funds that are provided by local boards of education, which would make a specific motion unnecessary for boards that consider it after that point.
Well, I mean, we've had it at length some discussion with Leanne, and I think it's a great idea because I think we need to do all we can, for our students and for our staff here. And I understand too the position some may think that, well, there's not much we can do with those people in Raleigh right now with the current administration, but I know Leanne works hard, lobbying and getting the people that she can, but there's been times from my understanding that she needs to be in more than one place and she's only one person to get the key people that are key players, which involve our school system. So I think it's a good idea, and I sent the emails out. I emailed all the board members and explained my position on it and why I thought it was a good idea, or why I think it's a good idea. That's my position.
This, I take it, is an annual cost and not a one-time payment?
That's my understanding.
Yes.
Well, I think I'd feel, after seeing what's come out of the legislature this year, I would love to have somebody in Raleigh advocating our position. And I think we need more representation in Raleigh if we can get it. And it seems like the cost is reasonable.
I support it as well, but I wonder if we should wait until next month when their bylaws are more acceptable to our attorney, and because I think we support it. I think part of us support it anyway. I don't know if the majority, but I could go either way. We're going to make a motion. I might would second. We see where we're at tonight. But.
I'm all for it. So you go ahead and make the motion.
Well, I was just going to get her to read it again so I can just say just that.
Would you like me to make a motion?
You read what we need to do.
Here's a recommend. I recommend if there was a motion on the table, it would be a motion that you approve a payment of $4,000 to the NCSBAC, and that you notify the NCSBAC that the use of our funds shall be limited to the following: 1, lobbying legislatures in support of legislation beneficial to school boards and their interests, and 2, advertising on issues of importance to school boards as long as such advertising is informational in nature and does not endorse or oppose any referendum or candidate for office.
I move what she said.
All right, motion been made by Mr. Smith. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Now we'll call the question. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion's approved. Offer to purchase Kinston High School house.
I'm sitting in tonight for Ms. Drummond. Good evening. As you know, the house at Kinston High School that was built by our career and technical education students was blown off the foundation and damaged significantly in a windstorm several weeks ago. Insurance adjusters and structural engineers working with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction visited the site recently to assess the damage. We've heard back from them. As you recall, the original auction to sell the house and the one at South Lenoir did result in a sale, but the original auction to sell this house resulted in no bids being made at all. Shortly after the auction, the house was blown off the foundation and now rests partly on the ground, having sustained serious structural damage. Prior to the auction, the house was, as you'll recall, unfinished, with no flooring, no sheetrocking yet completed, no cabinets, and no vinyl siding on the outside. The insurance adjusters with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction set the approximate value of the house in its damaged state as $12,130, and they set this to correspond with the highest informal offer to purchase that we had received from the community. Our Career and Technical Education Department has invested $30,328 in materials for this structure. Even after the $5,000 deductible that we have for all insurance claims, NCDPI is going to, or our insurance carrier through NCDPI is going to give us $30,328 minus their approximated value of $12,100 for the house, leaving a total for us to receive of $18,198. If our Career and Technical Education Department can sell the house for $12,130 or a higher figure through the upset bid process, we will be able to break even on the cost of materials for the house. And even before it was damaged, that seemed unlikely through the regular auction process, as they didn't even receive any bids in the 20s. Tonight we're asking for your approval on the amount of $12,130 or any higher amount for the CTE department to begin the upset bid process with this, and for them to begin the upset bid process with this amount. At this time, I'll take any questions that you have.
Did you say for them to start an upset bid process?
They would take this informal offer to purchase and the amount assessed by, which corresponds with the amount assessed by NCDPI's insurance carrier, and take that to begin the upset bid process. And advertise this amount beginning immediately if you approve that amount, and place an ad in the paper and announce that we've received this offer, and the public has 10 days to respond with an upset bid.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm clear. Normally somebody will make a bid and you have 10 days to get in your upset bid.
Right.
So in this instance, what are we saying, that this $12,130 is the bid, and that's going to start the upset bid?
Well, that's the starting point, yes. And we contacted Adam Mitchell at Darrington Smith and consulted with him to get to this point and to bring this recommendation before you for approval tonight and to move forward.
So $12,130 basically is a break-even point.
Right.
What you're asking us to do is authorize you to accept a bid for that or more.
Right. Because it could end up through the upset bid process at 15 or 16, wherever it ends up. That's you would give approval tonight for at least this much, which would bring us to the break-even point for the structure. In its current condition, the buyer would have to agree to remove it from the site within 30 days, because we do have concerns about safety with it being on site, and damage to the structure, further damage to the structure with part of it coming into contact daily with the ground.
I move to accept the bid of $12,130.
Second.
Or more.
Or more.
Or more.
Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Stroud. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Thank you. That's approved. Policy revisions.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Lynch in just a minute, but you have a lot of policies. They are all bringing policy in line with legislative action. We don't have a lot of choice about these changes. There's no change to how we do business other than what is mandated from the state. And for that reason, certainly would ask you to go ahead and consider approving these policies tonight. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Lynch to see if she has more information. It's a lot to sort through, but it was a busy legislative session.
There are actually 32. And 30 of the policies are policies that we already have in place, but as he said, are revisions that are a result of statutory language or legal references. But we do have 2 new policies in the 32 that you have. One of them addresses online instruction, which we do utilize with our students, and we do have procedures in place that are supported by this policy. And it's basically making sure that students have access to online classes. The second new policy we have is about the automated external defibrillators, the AEDs. We currently have procedures in place for those because we do have defibrillators in all of our high schools and 1 middle school. We actually are ordering 3 more so that we'll have 1 now in every high school and every middle school. And this policy just backs up our procedures that we already have in place, which does include training for the people who would be able to use these AEDs. And that is required in the policy as well. There are a lot of policies, and our staff has reviewed these policies, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you have about them, but we are asking that you approve these tonight.
Would ask you, yeah, I'm sorry.
3102 is new, and 5029.
Ask you if you would approve the revisions for 30 policies that are revisions and a first reading for the 2 new policies.
Okay, so we're not approving the 2 new ones?
That's correct. It'll be a first reading for them, and you would approve the 30 that are revisions.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Noble. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Stroud. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? 30 are approved. Out-of-state school trips.
We do have 3 out-of-state field trip requests. One from LaGrange Elementary, who's requesting that their 5th graders go to Myrtle Beach for the showing of Pirates Cove. Also, Frank is asking permission to travel to Orlando, Florida for their honor band and chorus to compete. And South Lenore is requesting to travel with select honor students to California during the Easter break for touring in San Francisco and Monterey.
Volunteer for that? Okay, is there a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip request?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Stroud. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Sargent. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Requests are approved. Closed session. Is there a motion we move to closed session?
I move that the Lenore County Board of Education go into closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A, 1A, 3A, 11A1, A3, and A5, and A6 to consult with the attorney as needed to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to consider confidential personnel matters, to instruct the superintendent or the board's agents concerning the board's negotiating position on the price and other material terms of a proposed contract for the acquisition of real property, and to prevent disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential under North Carolina General Statute 115C-319 and student information rendered confidential under the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act 20 U.S.C. 123G.
Second.
All right. Motion been made and second. All those in favor of going into closed session, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. We're in closed session. All right, we're back in open session. Next item on the agenda is the personnel report. Is there a motion to approve the personnel report with the addendum?
So moved.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? We're adjourned.
Thank you.